Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start, I'd like to just point out something. When we started, Mr. Floyd spoke first, and it was very passionate. I was very moved. But then, for some reason, you didn't have Mrs. Underwood Jacobs speak about the loss of her brother, and it really surprised me, quite frankly. And I thought it was very disrespectful. I don't know if that's what you meant, but I wanted to say that. I want to thank all of you for coming here, and I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. Floyd, and for your loss, Ms. Underwood Jacobs. You know, I have 2 black grandsons, and so, you know, I haven't experienced the discrimination that some of you have experienced, that you have told us about, but I sure don't want them to be discriminated against. So this is very important to me. But there's another thing going on here that I just want to read some tweets. This is very disturbing to me. First of all, in early June, Brian Fallon, the executive director of Demand Justice and the former press secretary to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign and spokesman for Attorney General Eric Holder, tweeted, "Defund the police." On June 5th, Representative Ilhan Omar, who represents Minneapolis in Congress, tweeted, "The Minneapolis Police Department has proven themselves beyond reform. It's time to disband them and reimagine public safety in Minneapolis." Minneapolis City Council member Jeremiah Ellison, son of Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, tweeted, "We're going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department." Lisa Bender, the president of the Minneapolis City Council, tweeted, "We are going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department." I read that Patrisse Cullors, a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, wants to see police forces abolished entirely, eventually. And Steve Fletcher, Minnesota City Council member, also stated that he and City Council President and the chair of the Public Safety are calling to disband our police department. Mr. Bongino, I am a survivor of domestic violence from a previous marriage. And I remember when my neighbors called the police. And I don't know why, but I disputed. When the police came to the door, I said, "Oh, I'm fine. Nothing happened. Everything's good here." If we disband, dismantle, defund, reduce funding in the police, what's going to happen to the woman that calls out, who's a victim of domestic violence? What's going to happen to response time? What's going to happen in that situation, do you think?
Well, I became a police officer. I wanted to be a doctor precisely because in a situation, without rendering any further embarrassment to people in my family, a police officer showed up and dissuaded a member of my family from doing something he shouldn't have been doing. And this person wasn't scared of anything. He was only scared of the police. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, he didn't want to go to jail. It's the only thing, I was about 9 or 10, it's the only thing that brought peace to me that night. I knew I wanted to be a cop the moment after that. You know, this defund the police abomination will lead to a catastrophe like you've never seen. I can't emphasize that in strong enough terms. I worked in a largely minority precinct, East New York, Brooklyn, the 7-5 precinct. It's a tough place to work. I was young, I was in my 20s. The only time I was ever physically attacked by someone was in a domestic violence situation. I have nothing but the utmost respect for social workers, medics, EMTs, and firemen. I mean that. Running into a burning building is tough. Saving someone's life and catching a pulse in the last minutes, that's tough. But when I walked into that house, make no mistake, that man, and forgive me for not saying my sincere, my heartfelt empathy with you for having gone through that, having lived through it myself. I should have opened with that. I mean that. But that man in that house, I'll never forget it, he wasn't going to be stopped. There was no negotiating. This isn't a movie, folks. This is real. He wasn't going to be stopped from attacking his wife. There was a 5 or 6-year-old, I don't know the age, cowering in the corner. I've told this story recently because it's so tattooed on my brain, I'll never forget it. You know what that's like? Cowering in the corner. You know, the daddy stop. The guy wasn't going to be stopped. He didn't care that we had guns. You think he's going to care if it's a social worker? Again, I'm not sure where this ridiculous absurdity of defunding the police came from, but I didn't come here with some partisan agenda, and frankly, I'm deeply offended at some who've made it so, including mischaracterizing my comments by Mr. Muriel, which was offensive to me, too. You can pound a table all you want, but that's not what I said. Black families matter to me, too. That was my point. Not that the tragic death of Mr. Floyd had anything to do with that. But what about black families that are the subject of domestic violence? The guy I stopped hit me with an ironing board, you know that? And luckily my partner was there to save me, and that woman, and that crying 5-year-old child.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Thank you.
Jayapal.
Thank you.